the kill chain is way shorter. We saw this also a lot in smaller artillery systems. In my opinion, the 82 millimeter mortar is the most dangerous artillery piece in Ukraine.
In this video, a German-Ukraine veteran and the Ukraine expert Dr. Colonel Reisner from the Austrian Armed Forces talk about the effectiveness of weapon systems, like mortars, mines, and first-person view drones, as well as the ability for lower-level commanders like squad and platoon leaders to call in support weapons, something that before was only available to higher-ranking officers. This video was originally recorded on 25th November 2024.
And this is why I once again want to stress that the first-person view drones were such a very interesting surprise, because it is really the weapon system which makes it possible for the Ukrainians, especially in the close battle, to still hold the Russians back, which I think is quite important. It's even more useful than anti-tank guided weapons and things like that. It's sad that when you look at the losses of tanks on the Russian side in Ukraine, then you can see that up to 35–40% are the result of first-person view drones. Only 2%, it's said at the moment, is related to losses by the use of anti-tank guided weapons, and the rest is pretty much especially mines. So you can see what kind of an impact that had, that still have more or less, and because of the fact that this is used in the close battle area, the Ukrainians still manage more or less to hold back the Russians. But as you know, they're creeping forward.
Good point, because I catch up directly there, because there's a good point, as you mentioned, that this call for fire, for example, in artillery, or call air support, is unusual. Not so usual like we had this in Western countries in coin operations. The FPVs have also another big aspect, in my opinion, why they are so efficient, because they are in more like a horizontal hierarchy. When you want to have an air support, when you have a call for fire from artillery, you need a higher ranking officer, like a company level, battalion level, or something like that. As a normal platoon leader, group leader, you're mostly not able to call such valid asset. But if you got a drone team in your company, or even sometimes drone operators in your platoon or group, you are able to use this small scale air support directly. And that's make it way more efficient. So the time, how it's called, the time to target, is the kill chain is way shorter. We saw this also a lot in smaller artillery systems, like in my opinion, the 82 millimeter mortar is the most dangerous artillery piece in Ukraine, because the kill chain is really short, and you can call it more frequently and also accurately than the larger guns.
Yeah. Also, I want to jump in here. By the way, that is no surprise, because if you look at the reports from the Second World War, you will see that mortars were the most feared weapon system at that time. Mortars of a different caliber, up to 120 millimeters. But one thing I would like to stress, and this is why it is important also to understand why resources are so important to have it available. So the first-person view drone is a perfect weapon for the close battle, up to a distance of, let's say, 5 kilometers, even further if you have a repeater drone, which works actually as a relay station. But the problem is you still need the artillery, because at the moment we see that the Ukrainians still are outnumbered when it comes to artillery shells compared to the Russians. And why is this important? Because the Russians can form, according to their manuals, again, those artillery groupings which are working against the Ukrainians. And you can't use the first-person view drone against these artillery groupings, because the distance is too short, more or less. So this is why you need, on all different levels, the assets you actually have to be ready to fight against the enemy. And this is why at the moment it is so complicated for the Ukrainians, because they still hold back the Russians by using their first-person view drones, but they have no real answer when it comes to artillery fire. And the same goes with the gliding bombs, because to fight against the gliding bombs you need air defense systems, medium and long-range systems, which make sure that these Russian fighters cannot drop their gliding bombs. So at the end of the day, and this is the problem actually, you need all the different capabilities to be successful. If you just only have the first-person view drones, which were a really, I would even say, eye-opening aspect of this war. It's great to have them ready, but it's not sufficient because you need other stuff too and other capabilities.
Yeah, classic combined arms case. So it's just it's not the final solution, but it says it's another tool in the box. The glide bombs are actually one of the most biggest problems, in my opinion, right now. They are they have such a huge range and such an impact. I saw once one landing, and it was actually the most people don't know how terrifying airstrikes can be. It's the amount of explosive which is dropped at one time. It's impressive.
And just imagine there are loads up to 3,000 kilogram per gliding bomb, and that has a devastating effect on the typical strong point like of a platoon or even of a company.
Yeah. So what I saw, it was mostly the problem is I saw some airstrikes before, but in an airstrike you have mostly like indicators coming beforehand. Jets are extremely loud. The most attacks by airstrikes I saw was in the nighttime, and when you see a jet through the night vision goggles, you see them of dozens of kilometers. It's insanely bright. So you have some indicators and can guess where they travel to and which are the danger areas. But on the glide bombs, you have absolute no indicators. It comes pure out of the blank, and then it hit hard. And what when I saw it was like, especially in villages or cities held by Ukrainians, like strong points, when they saw the effort would be way too big to take this strong point by mechanized units or infantry or so on, they just wipe out from the distance via glide bombs. This point, and they can actually choose the hardest.
Yeah. I can give you a good example where we were able to see these tactics, and this was Ugledar, because Ugledar was a very well defended strong point who repelled 4 brigade-size attacks last year, but after 1.5 years of bombing with glide bombs, with rocket artillery, with artillery, it was pretty much done. So the only chance the Ukrainians had is to withdraw from the formerly well-defended strong point, because there was not much left actually from the strong point. And this is what the Russians do actually. They just shape more or less certain strong points in a way that you will not be able to defend them any longer, because they run simply havoc on them.
Big thank you to Dr. Colonel Reisner and Butya Freiman for this talk. Note this is an outtake from a longer talk between the two. Thank you for watching and see you next time.